Good evening. Please stand for the pledge.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the May 24th, 2023 Town of Carmel Planning Board meeting. Before we get started, I would like just to reach out to our chairman, Craig, who is recovering from a medical procedure. Just want him to know that he's in our thoughts and prayers, and we wish him well. Thank you. First up on the agenda, we have a public hearing for A&B Holding, GCCM LLC, 93 Tea Kettle Spout Road.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, this is on for a public hearing. Mike, you did not have any comments on this?
I have no comments. This is the one that was a strange previous subdivision that was done without going through the process. Mike is now going through the process, legalizing everything, so I have no comments on this.
Thank you. And Rich, you had no comments?
We just need to get the drawings finalized, but there's no comments that are substantially impact this public hearing right now.
Very good.
Uh, No comments, and you do have a draft resolution of approval for you tonight.
Okay, thank you. Okay, at this point, I'd like to take any public comment. Any comments from the public?
Mr. Chairman, as there do not appear to be any public comments, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, public hearing is closed. I'd like to make a motion, I have someone motion to adopt a final subdivision approval.
Seeker should come first. Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't see. There was Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. All right, Mr. Chairman, I'll offer the final subdivision approval, resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 23-14, dated May 24th, 2023, tax map number 76.17-1-17, A&B Holdings, GCCM LLC subdivision, 93 Tea Kettle Spout Road. And the only thing I'll note is, you'll get a copy of this from Rose, but there are certain things that you need to do before.
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to point that out, but I'll offer that.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Very good. Thank you very
Can I
much.
just say one thing?
Sure.
Next month will be 1 year since I purchased the property at 93 Tea Kettle Spout Road. Prior to that, I had looked at the land and envisioned what I can make of it. Now we are finally nearing the actual building of an amazing home on what has been transformed into a beautiful and buildable lot. I want to thank the board, Mr. Carnazzo, Ms. Franzetti, and the rest of the staff at the town. With the help from all of you, we'll be adding another beautiful home to the existing beautiful homes of Mahopac. From my team to all of you, thank you for your patience, guidance, and cooperation in allowing me to get this done. Thank you.
Good luck.
Appreciate that. Good luck.
Good luck.
Very good. Next on the agenda, we have a resolution, NYC DEP, West Branch Auxiliary Dam, 34 Drewville Road. How are you?
Hi, good evening.
Okay, Mike, did you have any comments on this?
I do not.
And Rich, how about you?
So there are no comments, but the applicant did provide a bond earlier today and a letter that was dated in 2012 indicating that in the past, the town board has alleviated the DEP or didn't allow, let the DEP put this notice of whatever credit forward. So that needs to kind of be discussed and finalized as part of this public hearing and, that's part of what we have to do, but otherwise, we're good.
Okay. So,
So I don't remember. Paul will speak to that, I guess, when he's ready
Yeah,
to
they
go.
don't do a regular standard bond.
and we also have a draft of a resolution for this.
You do, Mr. Chairman, and there is the provision in the resolution speaks to a performance bond.
So if it is going to be an alternative, we would have to revise that language in the resolution.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, so just so you know, the last letter that was provided to us was dated 2012. It was voted on and approved by the town board. So it's not, I don't believe, and again, Joe can speak to this, but I don't believe it's an action your board can take. It's an action that has to, the DEP has to go to the town board, making the request, getting the request as a resolution from the town board, and then moving forward.
So is our resolution,
So you could, yeah, you could pass a resolution this
Conditional?
evening, subject to DEP going before the town board, asking for a replacement letter of credit instead of, or whatever the case may be.
And Joe, and what I'd suggest, revise the language of item 5 to be a performance bond or other suitable form of surety.
That's perfect.
So add that language to
So we'll
to
make
whoever makes the motion.
Then they
that
don't
would
have
be-
to come back.
Okay.
Sure. My name is Paul Costa. I'm with DEP, Bureaus of Engineering, Design, and Construction. So the performance bond, just to make it clear, DEP gets 100% value of the contract performance bond from the contractor, and that assures us that anything goes wrong with the site or the contractor fails to complete his work, or we can call 100% performance bond, which is a little bit more than what the town usually gets out of their contractors. They get some percentage of the job, right? So that's the surety that we have. And then secondly, of course, as a city of New York, we're not going anywhere. We're, self-insured, and we're standing by this work. There's no doubt we're going to be there in any sense to make sure things are followed through. So yes, what they were referring to, the letter of 2012, was for the previous project up at Croton Falls Dam, the pump station. And what we had done, we had sent a letter to the town supervisor. And, there's a letter we send out requesting that waiver, explaining, the situation, explaining what we do gain from the contractor. And it was through that letter that then the town board, I think, passed a resolution to waive that bond requirement. So that's what we look to do, I guess, is maybe, before anything else, we should get a letter similar to the last letter for this project and send that in. That's what I would think would be the appropriate action for us to take.
So it would be a new letter, not the 2012 letters.
Yeah, that was for a previous project.
It was for a defined project that had defined,
So we should move forward with that letter.
criteria.
Right. And then, again, the resolution will be predicated on that. Okay. Are there any questions from the board? No. Anybody? You have anything else you want to go?
No, and we filled out, we sent the information on we understand the engineer, there's an inspection fee, right? So that I know we still have to follow up on. Yeah, I guess maybe the last thing I would just mention is, in terms of like executing, getting the fee paid, it'll take us some time, a few months, get that going. So just in terms of the timing of when that fee will come in, we're just going to be bidding the job in a couple of months. So construction's not going to start for 4 or 5 months. So we got some time. So we'll be able to get that fee into you, but it's going to take us 2 or 3 months to get that.
So Paul, the resolution gives you a year to satisfy all those conditions.
Okay, great. That sounds great. Great.
All right, then, with that being said, I'll need a resolution to adopt the final site plan. Okay, so subject to the revision of item 5, and that being resolved with the town, so subject to that, I'll offer the resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, number 23-15, May 24th, 2023, for tax map 66-1-5, NYC DEP West Branch Auxiliary Dam, final site plan approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Very good.
Thank you. And similarly, I'd like to, thank the board and Mike and Pat and Rich for helping us out. And, we coordinated for many years, but I think this project's going to benefit, DEP's got their own interest to take care of our work, but with the improvements to Route 6, I think that's going to be a benefit to the town also. So we're looking forward to step-by-step working with you in close coordination. So we look forward to it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, next up on the agenda is Willowwood Country Club, Inc., 551 Union Valley Road. This is up for resolution.
Good evening.
Okay, Mike, I
All my
believe you had no
comments
comments
are
on
addressed.
this?
Nothing.
Okay, Rich,
All comments have been addressed. They provided a performance bond yesterday, I believe.
okay.
And you have 2 resolutions, Mr. Chairman. In this one, you do have a negative declaration and the amended site plan approval.
Okay.
Are there any questions from the board? Anything?
We've got it. We've got them.
Okay, then I would look for a motion to adopt the seeker negative declaration resolution.
So I'll offer that resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, 23-12, May 24, 2023, tax map number 87.7-1, 6, 7, and 11, Willowwood Country Club Sporting Clay Course, Union Valley Road, seeker determination of significance negative declaration.
Do I have a second?
Second?
Pat, should we do a roll call vote on this?
I don't think you need to.
Okay. All right, then all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. I'll also now need a motion to adopt the amended final site plan resolution.
I'll offer that resolution of the Planning Board of the Town of Carmel, 23-13, May 24, 2023, tax map number 87.7-1, 6, 7, and 11, Willowwood Country Club Sporting Clay Course, Union Valley Road, amended final site plan approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, thank you. George, do you have anything?
Thank you. I can get a copy of that from
Yes,
Rose
you can
tomorrow?
get a copy.
Thank you.
Okay.
Excuse me, could you just explain what just transpired here? I heard a lot of numbers, I heard two resolutions, I heard thank you, but I don't think anybody here really knows what just happened. So if somebody on the board can be kind enough to take a moment to explain the relationship and what's going to happen with the Willow Ridge Gun Club, so that the audience members can understand what just transpired.
The board just approved the amended site plan approval for the gun club.
Does that mean they can start firing right away?
They can now work under the amended site plan. So whatever was approved in the amended site plan is now the approvals that are at the
Does this
gun
mean
club.
they can start speed shooting?
Whatever was in the amended site plan, I mean, Mr. Calcanini.
May I address that?
Yeah.
There's a
All right,
lot
First of all,
of,
this meeting now is not open for public comment, okay? If you wouldn't mind answering the question, that would be
I
fine.
certainly will.
But the public comment period, the public comment's closed, we extended a 10-day grace period. That period is not closed, so this is not open for public comment.
as a courtesy, I would
Thank
like to
you.
explain that there is a lot of work that we have to do in terms of drainage work, road work, sound barrier work, berms, plantings. And I will be in touch with the technical staff of the town to have them inspect and approve the work that was done before we resume shooting up there.
And that work was presented at our last meeting, correct? And
Yes.
it was all about the remediation and sound attenuation and whatnot.
Correct.
So that was the focus of this.
And-
So there is work that has to be done to mitigate the sound.
Steel shot or lead shot?
Sir, with all due respect, the public comments are closed. That was addressed in the last meeting.
This gentleman had over an hour to speak at the last meeting. Everybody else was given 3 minutes. So I think some of our questions could be answered by George over there, because he certainly got an hour of the last meeting.
Public hearing is closed. The board has now voted on the resolution. We're done.
Yeah, but you didn't explain anything.
We don't have to explain everything. You can read the amended site plan approval, which is what the board just voted on. There's two other items on the agenda this evening. This is not a public hearing.
So everything is approved?
Correct.
And are steel bullets being used instead of lead?
Again,
George, can you explain to us, are you using
Excuse
steel
me.
or lead?
George, hold on. We're going to have to move on to the next agenda item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is for site plan review. And it's Diamond Point Development LLC, 4 Baldwin Place. Sure. Sir, I'm not,
We're not going to engage in this.
I know, it's okay, I'm just gonna express myself.
No.
this is not the
No.
venue.
Police officer to come up.
Okay, 700 of them, number one pollutant is lead. And you're allowing that.
Okay, I believe, Mike, you had a memo on this?
I do. The applicant amended their submission slightly. They're still taking down all of the dilapidated and unsightly buildings that are on the site. They're replacing it with a retail building on Route 6, 120,000 square foot, three-story self-storage building, which will be Phase 1, and two 120,000 square foot, two-story self-storage buildings, which will be Phase 2. Engineer noted that they'll be placing signs on both Route 6 and Baldwin Place Road. Code allows this for freestanding signs in that district. In addition, the engineer must also demonstrate that they can show parking. The parking for a warehouse, self-storage warehouse is one parking spot per 10,000 square feet. It's not an overly used use, but they have to demonstrate that they can do one per 1,000 square feet, just to show that they are able to, if it doesn't work, they can do it for another use on this site.
Thank you, Mike. Rich, you have a memo on this as well, correct?
I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as Mike explained what the project is, my memo didn't capture the fact that it converted into one building and 120,000 square feet versus the 9 prior at 137,000 square feet. But the comments were still relatively the same. They've acknowledged comments. They've acknowledged for referrals. They've acknowledged the need for the permits. They've acknowledged that they indicated that a traffic study will need to be reviewed by and approved by the New York State DOT in Putnam County. They provided the stormwater pollution prevention plan, which is under review. It was a modified one from the original one. They will provide a stormwater maintenance agreement. They've acknowledged that. Performance bond. There were some detailed comments. They've acknowledged all the facts that that if they're needed, details on wells, lighting plan, grading utilities. So there's some details in there that need to be brought up, but they've acknowledged the fact that they're needed, and they're just gonna have to provide it as they move forward.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is an update of the plan you originally saw. So this is really just a preliminary presentation, really to get your temperature. So as Rich indicated, Adam, do you have the prior plan?
I don't have a copy of the
So
prior
in the
plan.
middle of the plan, the last drawing you saw had 9 buildings. They were smaller buildings, and as Rich indicated, it totaled about 137,000 square feet of storage space. Whether because of your prompting or because of the cost of doing the site excavation work and so forth, they have modified the plan. Now it's a single building that's shown on Adam's plan, and it's slightly smaller. It's 120,000 square feet, I think.
Correct.
So that's the change. Everything else remains the same. All of the work that's required that Rich and Mike indicated and we indicated still has to be provided for you. So there's no action to take on this. It's still too preliminary to do anything. I think all Adam wants to hear is this is better than what the prior plan was and what your reaction is. The comment that I would offer is the 9 buildings were 1- and 2-story buildings. This, I think, is a 3- or 4-story building.
3.
Bigger building, more mass. So I think one of the things we would want to see, Adam, eventually is some visual renderings of the difference between the smaller buildings and the one bigger building.
Sure. And we have provided color rendered elevations of the building, but we'll certainly update the renderings that we provided previously with the street views.
That building that you're presenting to us now, please point to it.
That would be this one here.
So that, and what's going to go on in the back is going to stay as is?
Yeah, so the, just to back up one step, as Pat was mentioning, I'll just take that. The office building on the Route 6 frontage is the same as what was previously presented. It's the future phase is what was presented previously. Really, the change that Pat was referring to was more kind of this middle area here that would be part of the initial phase, the first phase of the project. And as Pat pointed out, we had a total of 9 buildings shown on this site. We did have a building of similar scale in a similar location to this one here, but we also had additional buildings back in here. We had another building over here and another smaller building along the driveway here. Those have been condensed down to that single building.
I believe last meeting, you had a rendition looking from the entrance or from the road, showing the entrance and showing that building. Do you
Right.
have an updated rendering?
We haven't updated that one. Again, we have updated the color version of the building elevation, but we will definitely update those rendered views from the
And I
street.
should
I think
point
I
out
would
one
like
other
to see
thing.
that.
They talked about relocating the driveway at the last meeting. They have relocated the driveway up Baldwin Place Road.
Correct. So we're working with Colliers Engineering on the traffic on this project. They'll be spearheading the permitting with the DOT and with county highways and facilities. One of their initial comments, Colliers' initial comments, was the suggestion that the driveway that was originally shown coming out at the existing exit that's right on the, right near the mobile station, that be shifted a couple hundred feet to the, I guess it's the west and north on Baldwin Place Road, and we've done that.
And we're in the process, I'm sorry, of engaging a traffic consultant. They should be on board tomorrow or the day after.
Because that's important, that area right there.
What about the entrance on Route 6? Is that going to be relocated as well?
That would not be relocated, that would, at this point, we would plan to keep that in the location that it's shown. It should be noted that we're going into this with the assumption, and of course it'll come down to DOT permitting, but we're going into it with the assumption that that's going to be a right-in and right-out only. So you won't be making a left out of that location. You've got turning lanes and multiple lanes in that location. So it only makes sense for that to be right in, right out only, and the Baldwin Place entrance would be always. So to Pat's point, unless there are other questions or comments, exactly right. We're looking to do a couple of things. One, to just get your take on the revised plan. Again, this is a reduced scope as far as the project goes. We wanted to put that by you. Also, we did respond to a handful of the comments and questions. We did provide a maneuvering plan. We added notes. We did a handful of those things to try and advance the project a little bit. But really, we're looking for a feedback on those couple of things, and then we're going to take that and gain some momentum and start to really engage with the outside agencies. In addition to that, we have also reached out to the architectural consultant, the town's architectural consultant, and we did put that on hold because we were going through such a significant change in the size and scale and nature of the buildings that we didn't want to put the cart in front of the horse as far as the architectural review goes. But now that we are set on, on this going in this direction, we've re-engaged that reviewer, and that process will continue from here on.
I just have one comment. So, I mean, we had a discussion last time you were here, and I think we all agreed. I mean, this is a really important location for this town. It's what you see when you're driving into town. And, one thing we've gotten from other applicants, not that often, but we get it, is, renderings that show us, say, from Route 6, as you're coming in, what are you going to see?
Exactly.
I mean, we've had some projects in the past where, when it was all said and done, it didn't look, so we really want to give this one a lot of attention, and we want to make sure it's enhancing our town as opposed to,
Of course.
the opposite. So to the extent you can do that, I think it would go a long way.
Absolutely, yeah. And again, we did, with the initial submission, provide those views. I think we provided one from Route 6, and we provided one from Baldwin Place Road. We will revise those for the new plan, and we'll make sure that they're as accurate as they can be. And then we're happy, of course, to engage with the board and with your architectural consultant about,
I mean, especially because this building's now going to be 3 stories, so.
As Pat mentioned.
It's going to be a little more of a.
So I would just caution whether you need to see those renderings before you say this is a better plan. That's just my opinion. I think that
I'd
would
like
be
to see
helpful
them
for you.
before I say it.
Yeah.
And reason being, because it's now a 3-story building. The initial rendering in my opinion, looked pleasant from the road. I just don't know if this is gonna now look like a monster sitting there at 3 stories.
right. Well, I mean, again, this is going to be set back, I believe it's set back even a little further than the other building that was, and we'll do a comparison, than the building that was previously shown. So it does sit back on the site. We are planning to do, and there's been some back and forth with Pat in terms of the comments and responses about landscaping, framing the building. Of course, no business wants to be completely, screened off, but, looking to do something that will frame and soften the building as much as possible. And we'll develop that landscape plan to make sure that we achieve that. And then I think with I do think that the rendered views will help. push that conversation along.
Just taking Ray's comment a little bit further, what's very important to me also, because this is a gateway to the town, which has, as Ray indicates, a special significance to us. And I know that you're working with the architect, but the results of that architectural offering is going to be very important to me. Right now, as I look at the building that you're offering, it's a warehouse. And if it can be dressed up, there are a lot of things that can be done. I rely on the architect to work with you and do that. So that was one issue. Second question is, will you be providing any type of economic analysis, both in terms of the prospective success of this project, in addition to the economic benefit to the town?
I do believe that the applicants themselves, I think they were here at the last meeting with Rich from my office, and I do believe they provided some market research that kind of is the basis of the investment they're looking to make in the site. And I think that is on file. We'll make sure that you have a copy. And then I'll speak with them about, whether that needs to be, expanded.
Well, I'm also, the tax benefit to the town, or the tax effects as well, would be very important.
Right. Well, it'll certainly be a benefit, having the
Well, we
site
want
work
to see it. We want to see the
cleaned
numbers.
up and-
That's the point.
Yes, I understand.
Mr. Chairman, to follow up on Bob's comment, so going back to the architect, just run it by Rose. I thought we needed to do a permit first before you reach out to the architects. There's a permit that we fill out, there's a fee associated with the permit, and then that gives your initial review with the architect, and then after that, they set a retainer for the project review. So that's the way this is the way we've done it in the past, but let's confirm that tomorrow, Rose, but I think it's important that gets looked at, because that's the way it should be.
Now I'm remembering, it's not a permit, it's an application.
An application?
Right, for an initial architectural review. That allows you
Okay.
to go talk to them.
Right.
But
Okay.
there's a fee
There's a
associated
fee,
with it, so
yes.
he gets paid.
Right. We have been working with Rose, and there was discussion of establishing an escrow.
It's
So
twofold.
we may have
there's
stepped,
an
we may have
initial
skipped a step.
application and a nominal fee for an hour, 2 hours of their time. Then he sets an escrow account, knowing what he's looking at, to move forward with the review. It's a two-phased sort of process.
And just Adam, when we first met with the owner, the applicant, they did say, they would make the renderings and the thing look more like a farm, cupolas, whatever the board would desire on that. That's not quite shown on this drawing right here, and I think, again, going back to what Bob was talking about.
to what it was.
That's, so, but that's not, that might be that lower building, but what does this look like, right? And we talked about that, and the owner was amenable to it, right? He
Absolutely.
understood that piece, so that's just going back to what Bob was saying.
Yeah, there's no question that the applicant will be open to, whether it's introducing features that give more of the rustic kind of farm feel that was discussed at that meeting, and introduce.
Character.
Put some fire marks on it, you'll be good.
Yeah,
And don't forget
yeah.
the statue, you gotta have the statue.
Right. Yep. So they have sought to meet some of that aesthetic with the building that's on Route 6. Cupola, a little bit of a farm feel, and I'm sure, we can get to an amicable place in terms of the style of this building as well.
Just remind me, what's the duration you're thinking from start to finish?
Of construction, they'd like to do it within a year. That would be the first phase. Right now, though, we are showing a second phase. There isn't a specific timeline for the second phase, the buildings in to the rear of the property.
If this is approved that way, I think the board would probably have to put a close date on it, because we can't leave a second phase open forever, just so if it wasn't done, they would have to come back to the board and
Right.
revisit this, so.
And that could simply be written into a resolution that would be understood.
I just don't like things hanging out there.
Sure.
Approved.
What's a
and-
typical horizon that you would see that?
Approval's good for 1 year, but you're gonna get a building permit.
Right.
So your building permit would lock you for your year. However, if you're gonna do a phase 2, I would say,
It's going to be tight, Adam, because All of the physical infrastructure associated with the entire site goes in first. The construction of those two buildings in the back can be second phase. If we're wearing out infrastructure by the time you get around to the second phase, it's a problem for us, so we try to keep that tight. I'm guessing your client wants to see how the first phase goes before he invests in the second phase. If the first phase isn't working, he doesn't want to build a back phase. So you're probably going to want a long period, we're going to want a tight period.
Right.
So we'll negotiate and we'll talk about what's an appropriate thing.
Yeah, and we can talk about that.
We like to keep a short leash on those types of things.
We could talk about that offline, and we have sought to, the phases are fairly separate. The road network is separate. You know, essentially, the first phase would end in this loop road here, and then an extension would be created to provide this. The stormwater systems are separate. There is a separation with regard to utilities and other infrastructure, but we can certainly talk offline about how that might come together.
You know, maybe based on offline discussions at some point, maybe that gets eliminated from the plan phase two. And we just deal with, don't call it phase one, we deal with your project.
Yeah, well, all that being said,
So that's actually a good point. So if you are concerned about the extended length of time with respect to the potential development of the property, the solution to that is, that's an amended site plan. Phase two turns into an amended site plan. We just approved the phase one as the site plan, and if you choose to do phase two, that becomes an amendment whenever. And now we don't have to worry about timeframes and so forth. It happens whenever you choose to do it. So just another alternative or another way of looking.
yeah, well,
Right back to your
I would say that, you know, the applicant's strong preference will be to have a future phase, you know, shown on a site plan. Of course, if anything were to be built that was different than what's shown on the potential approved site plan for the future phase, of course, they would come back for an amended site plan.
Adam, we have you know this, we have a history of problems with phase developments, so that's why we're overly cautious. So to be discussed, we're not even close to where we've got a plan yet. So.
There's a lot of work that has to go before we even get to that next step.
Well, will the architectural work be done on the phase two as well as phase one at this point?
I'm inclined to say
Yeah.
If it's on the map, it's going to be reviewed.
Yeah.
Oh, just one question. I got a little confused. The two buildings in the back, are they two-story or three-story?
Right, so, just take this back. So, I'll just run through quickly. This is, as you saw on the rendering, it's just a single-story building.
Right.
This one is the three-story, and the way this works is the lower level, the first floor, would be accessed from the front of the building here, and then you come up to the elevation of the second level, and you access that from here, and the third level would be accessed via elevator internal to the building. These buildings work in a similar way, except there's only two levels. There's just the way the natural topography on the site is, there's a ridge that runs through the site in this location. So this sits up a little bit higher. This would access the upper floor, and as you go down in either direction, you get down to the lower level. So 2 stories, 3 stories, and then, of course, just the smaller 1-story office building.
Thank you.
And you mean a retail center for this use?
Yes.
Any other questions from the board? Comments? I guess there's work to be done.
Yeah, so we'll update, you know, as discussed. I think we're going to continue to advance this plan, because this is the preferred direction of the applicant, and we will update renderings and provide a new presentation next month.
Okay.
Again, that's at your risk, Adam. Again, if the board sees the rendering and prefers the multiple buildings, that's a potential. So that's why the rendering is important for them sooner rather than later.
Sure. We'll make sure to provide that with our next submission.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Okay. Is anybody here? We don't have anyone from Western? Okay. Next up on the agenda is Western Bluff subdivision, 350 West Shore Drive. It's on for final subdivision. this over to the next meeting then. Okay, with that said, then I would need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.